So this here is our first scare zone that we're going to experience. It's on Hollywood Boulevard. And one thing that's interesting, if we go back to our history, one of the first two scare zones, of course Midway the Bazaar was the first, but then you had Midway the Bazaar, which was here on Horrorwood Boulevard, was what they referred to the second scare zone as. So we kind of come back to bringing one back to here. But this is the entrance here. Has anybody seen the commercial this year? It takes place in the warehouse with the security guard. If you take a look, if you go back and watch it again, it's on Facebook, it's on the internet, but you'll recognize this as that same warehouse. Obviously that one's a little wider. But here it's kind of like, this is our Halloween Horror Nights 20 Years of Fear. So it's like you're entering our warehouse, and as you go through, you'll see lots of props from years past, going all the way back, from the very beginning. You'll see some representations of our icons and our mascots, even some less known mascots, like you'll see, once we get up to the front, you can find characters like Eddie stalking through here. We mentioned that the Crypt Keeper was one of our first icons, even though it wasn't ours, from HBO in 1995. He's in here, looks like he's a dummy until you get too close, and then he'll let you know that he's real. So you'll see things like that. You'll see props popping up, characters like the Queen of Hearts, which came from the Asylum of Wonderland, and you'll see just representations from all 20 years. A lot of recognizable figures if you've come in the past, hopefully you'll recognize them. Props, set pieces, everything here has been used at some point in Horror Nights. It may have been 20 years ago, 19 years ago, it may have been last year, but everything was used at some point in Horror Nights, and probably reused over and over. One thing we do is we do keep our props, anything that's able to be kept, and we try to reuse them over and over. The bodies, there's several hundred human bodies that are used every year in Horror Nights, and of course they're kept until they can't really be used for anything anymore because they just turn to pulp. But they do use them over. 50% of our props every year are going to be new, 50% are going to be reused. That's kind of an average when you think about what we do with the houses. So as you're walking through, just take a look at everything. Feel free to take your pictures and see if you recognize anything from the past. And then at the end, we'll move on to our second scare zone, which is kind of like one. You think it's one long one, but it's actually two separate ones. So we'll talk about fear revealed at the end. As you're coming through, the Crypt Keeper actually sits in that chair right there. And you'll see that, some of these, that's from the die-in over here. We have some body collectors props in the front here. And you'll see some of the signs from, excuse me, some of the originals. This one right here, I'm pretty sure, if I can remember, that this sign's from 1997. Looks like the lettering that was on the t-shirts from 97. I won't swear to it because that's information that we haven't been provided, but I'm pretty sure I recognize that from that year. The other signs are just random years. They've been posted at different places throughout Horror Nights. There's one of our coffins up there that we've used before. And one thing I want to point out is we do use real coffins in Horror Nights. If you see a coffin, it was a real coffin. It probably at one point had a body in it. That's how we get them cheap. Because with coffins, once there has been a deceased body in it, you cannot put either another human being that's alive or deceased inside the same coffin. It's against the law. It is a federal offense. So they sell them very cheap because they can't be used, because even if you are cremated, you're not cremated in the coffin, as some horror movies try to tell you that you are. You are taken out of the coffin, but then they're sold cheap, and usually they go to reasons like this, like the film studios, or to us, where we can use them. We can put a dummy in them, but we can't put a live person in there, or a dead person. So, but we do build some of our own coffins, of course. If you've seen some of the, back in the past, some of the wired Dracula coffins that appeared, anytime you see someone in a coffin, it's been built by us. Or if it's that elaborate, it was bought brand new. Now, one thing, you have to forgive me, did Brandon bring up the lantern from the history about this year? I thought it kind of, so we'll talk about it right here, so let me try to repeat it. In the commercial, do you remember seeing the lantern at the end that lights up and I call that, well, the guy who plays the security guard disappears. What's happened over the past 20 years is that's kind of Fear's, for lack of better terms, that's like his little turnkey. That's how he gets all of his energy. It has been around for the past 19 years in the creative team and entertainment. Every meeting they've gone to, it's just kind of been there, but no one's ever questioned it. It's always just there. Come to find out, it's actually Fear's portal, and that's how he has influenced everyone while they've created Horror Nights over the past 19 years. So all of the ideas that have come forth, all the icons and the characters, they've all been influenced by Fear himself. because he needed 19 years of all of what's happened to get enough energy to appear in his actual form. So that's why this year he's appearing in his form. You'll see him at the end of Hollywood Boulevard when we go to the next scare zone. Of course, have you all seen him? Because you've all been. For the last group, nobody had been yet, so forget, you guys have all been. That's a good thing. So here is the actual lantern. So if you pay attention, up here at the top, and when you come through at night, this is lit up like the inside of a lantern. And here you're actually walking through the lantern and entering the 20th year of Fear. So now we're going to enter the next scare zone, which the icons of the past. You'll see Jack, and every now and then you'll see his girlfriend. Anybody know her name? Chance. Yep. It was very similar to what character? Anybody know? There you go. Kind of like a darker, more sinister version of Harley Quinn. And as you're going through, I'll let you look at all the sets. You can take pictures, of course, if you want. I'll tell you each set when we get up here. Each major icon that we've created kind of has their own little set in this area. So you'll see Jack here. Now, he might not always be here. He might be out in the street with Harley. So see, now I'm going to see saying that. With Chance, you may see him around, but that's really insufficient set. You can also find Eddie roaming through here. You can find Cindy roaming through here. The bad version of Cindy, the one that would have been the icon in 2002. When we go in that house, which you've already been through it, do you remember the blonde girl that was floating and the walls? Well, that's what Cindy that's what everybody saw as Cindy. That's, the cute little blonde innocent girl. So the girl you see with the dark hair, walking around with the circles and everything, that's bad Cindy. That's like after things have gone crazy and she's gone to the dark side. That's what you want to say. So the good Cindy is that blonde girl that's floating. That's kind of like her letting go of the Cindy and becoming the bad Cindy. Because the one with the dark hair is, she's supposed to look like a porcelain doll. What happened is when she burned down the orphanage, she got burned, and so she wore a porcelain doll mask. So she would have had all that blonde hair and the doll mask, and that's what she would have appeared as in 2002, then to become the bad Cindy. So the version we see is after she's already done everything bad. So you'll see them walking around. Three-color set. Once again, she might not always be sitting right there, but this is kind of her area. And the other characters, there's smoke out here and lights, and you've seen them, but this is a good place to come see Eddie. Right here is the director, Paolo Ravisky. There's director kind of like to do what to people?
Snuff them.
Yeah, torture them, make snuff films. So he's kind of got his little set here. Directly behind us over here is the usher, which is Julian Browning. Kind of, it's a ticket booth, kind of simulate, ushering into the theater. Did everybody get to see Fear? Yes, you've all seen him. It's got the pyro up top and the flames. Did anyone notice anything interesting about the minions?
They light up at night.
They do light up, but anyone notice anything else?
Like making his not coats, but his cloths with his wings.
Kind of. You're getting there. Go back and look at their faces. Is anybody going to Halloween tonight?
Yeah.
Go back and look at their faces. It's actually the lantern. Their face is two X's.
Yeah.
And it's made to look like the face of the lantern. 20 years, 10, 2 Roman numerals, just like this. It actually has this in their face. Perfect example right there. And then our last icon is right over here. Made its debut in the Festival of the Dead Parade. Of course, it's a beautiful carriage. It's been around for a very long time. Hopefully, it'll stay with us. It won't go anywhere. But this is where the caretaker, this is his official set. And of course, he wanders out through here and does his things. And typically, Cindy will start with him as well, because Cindy kind of goes with the caretaker, of course. Chance goes with Jack. Eddie also kind of tags along with Jack, but that's why you kind of see them all together. Now, this area we're entering here, let's stop right over here. This is called the Coven. It's a scare zone that's based on witches, not just one type of witch. It's the Raven clan, and we have 3 different types. We have the hags, which are the Stygian witches, the ones with the warts, and the Stygian witches are the ones that have one eye. They hold their eye, kind of walk around. Kind of familiar if you watch a lot of like lore movies and myth movies. You've seen them before. And then we have the sirens, which are like the really beautiful witches, the ones you don't expect. They're the ones who lure you in. And then, of course, they can kill you or put spells on you or do whatever they want to do. So there's the 3 different types. And this area here is similar to kind of like what they did in Salem with the witch trials, but the witches are now burning the non-believers instead of the non-believers burning the witches. So if you don't believe, you're going to be burned. And the witches are taking, because they want to kill the men, so they're taking them in and they're burning them alive. So as you enter on each side, the men are supposed to be on a fire pit, and of course they're reaching for your help. And as you go through, you'll see different types of witches come out at you. Some are friendly and some aren't, but ultimately they all want to burn you. So you probably want to believe in what they do. As you can tell, it's much more effective at night. Just a little bit of smoke and a little bit of light really makes a lot of changes. Right in the middle of the coven. Picnic. To Day of the Dead, which is a festival originated in Mexico. So it's very popular in Southwest U.S., New Mexico, Texas, Arizona, that area. Of course, a lot of culture from Mexico spills into those areas, and it's celebrated. But you've seen it, though, right? So you've seen, I didn't expect the costumes to be so neat. So I wasn't sure what to expect when I knew what was coming. So when I finally got to see them under black light and the hoops and I think they're really neat. So it's more kind of like an introduction to Horror Nights. It's really not so scary. People kind of enjoy watching the costumes. There are opportunities for them to scare you because obviously it is all black light and there's lots of smoke. So there's places for them to pop out, but a lot of times it's more about the effect and kind of looking at the costumes and the makeup, as you probably saw. Alright, so that's it for our scare zones. Of course, there are 2 more scare zones, which you've seen, Salzenstein and Zombie Garage.